Well, at least they made it interesting.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your hosts, Stacey. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. With me, as always, is my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
Another loss, another series loss.
Good Lord. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We've seen a bump in subscribership, probably because the Yankees keep losing and they like seeing us angry. But thank you for subscribing to the channel. We appreciate it. Subscribe, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. On today's show, we will preview the Yankees and Cubs series, which starts on Friday. Thankfully, Thursday is an off day. Segment 2, if it carries over, we might still be talking about this game because there were so many annoying things about this game. Sure, they nearly made a miraculous comeback, but there are so many things about this game that I'm angry about. So I think we're going to spend a lot of time on it. What are your thoughts of Wednesday night's loss to the Rangers?
Aggravation, too little, too late. I know that Stanton hit the crap out of that ball in the last out, but even if that ball goes out, they're still down a run. And you're still going up against one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Stroman wasn't good enough, and I'm going to be honest. In a game where you needed him to have a big performance because you needed to get a win, Stroman wasn't good enough. And in a day where you really had the opportunity to make a statement and get a win, because yes, was yesterday's loss frustrating? Absolutely. But at the same time, Stacey, you could have erased all of that because Baltimore somehow lost to Chicago. If anybody was scoreboard watching, the Orioles lost like 10-1 to the White Sox somehow. I think it was 8-1.
8-1.
Yankees had an actual opportunity to erase what happened yesterday, and they didn't.
Nope.
So to not come out with urgency when you know that they're scoreboard watching, you know that there's a score up in that stadium, and you know that they're able to see what the score is, to not have the urgency to come out and win this game, really infuriating. Soto gets a home run, so he gets off to a little bit better of a track. He had a great day today. 3 hits, don't win a walk. Really great day. But Judge still no home run. Wasn't great. Stroman needed to be better. Leiter is a huge concern. The Yankees Leiter. A lot of not great points that come out of this game.
Judge needs to be rebooted. Something happened like 10 days ago. They need to unplug him, plug him back in, and reboot him, because I don't know what is going on with him, because it's not even him at the plate, staring at 3 straight pitches for a strikeout. It's also some of these catches he's not making, some of these plays he's not making in the field that have a 95% catch probability. That's not Aaron Judge-like. So what is happening?
Well, the problem is now you can't afford to sit him because of the way that's the point that we've been making all year to you guys, is when you have the June swoon like they had, and that's in the July swoon, and it extends and extends and extends, all of this barrels over, and all this creates a more of an avalanche of more problems that persist later on in the year. Like, this is the time the Yankees should have a 6 or 7 game lead on the Orioles, and they should be sitting their guys. They should be able to get guys rest. They should be able to give Judge a day of rest today, so he's off tomorrow, so he gets the 2 days rest. Now you can't afford to do any of that, because they're stuck in such a race that they need to try and win these games. They need to try and win the division. So, you all of this barrels down into more and more and more problems for them. And, this is a game where, the lack of urgency really shows in a game like today. Mm-hmm. And especially after we should be coming on this show after a win and discussing the Boone comments, where I think someone in the front office spoke to him because his tune certainly changed from post-game to pregame today. Post-game last night to pregame today, because post-game last night it was, oh, we've seen Holmes struggle, but he'll figure it out. And there was no indication that Clay Holmes would not be your closer going into the future last night. And then all of a sudden today, it seems like maybe someone pulled a puppet string, or maybe someone in the front office spoke to him, because for some reason the mood was completely different, where we're willing to try anything. We're going to have a closer by committee. It's nothing against Clay, but I don't know how that opinion magically changed. And I don't know how we have a manager that's not able to make his own decisions, but clearly that's what happened, Stacey. So I think that's worthy of discussing too. And I'd like to hear what you guys think of that in the comments too.
Yeah, it was an interesting change overnight. Also, this should have happened in July, but I mean, better late than never.
Yeah, I don't even know though, because you hear those comments of oh, we're going to change things and it's going to be closed by committee and we're going to try something new. I heard a great point from someone today though. I get it, better late than never, but also we're trying in September.
Mm-hmm.
Like we waited. It's not like Clay Holmes has gotten the yips starting in August, and it was a terrible August, and now he somehow blew 8 saves in the month of August. He's been terrible majority of the year. We decided to change things up now, when almost like it's too little too late. It feels like it, because you need to find someone that's going to be able to fit into that role, and you don't know if you have that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not because they're still right there. I sound like Aaron Boone. They're still right there. It's right in front of them. They're just lucky that the O's are just as up and down as they are. The O's can't pull ahead. They can't pull ahead. Neither of these teams can take advantage of each other's losing. And, the most advantage that either one of them can take is like a half game lead, really, at this point. And it's going to be like this for the rest of the month, possibly.
It's going to come down to that final series. And, if you're the Yankees, you got to like the fact that they lined up Cole and Rodon to be one of pitching in that series, even though they claim it wasn't intentional. It clearly was. You got to have a little faith in the fact that you're going to have your best pitchers on the mound for that series. But again, like you said, they've had, at this point, whatever team loses the division and doesn't get home field is going to have no one to blame but themselves. Whether it's the Orioles or the Yankees, they are going to literally have absolutely no one to blame but themselves, because Stacey, they've both been mediocre at best, and they both have been given literally every opportunity imaginable to win this division, to have a big lead and everything, and neither team has taken advantage of it. Neither team has taken a grip of this division when both have had a serious opportunity to do so. And you go back to a series like this one, right? The Rangers, they are playing for something. They have a very, very slim chance of getting in, but they still are playing for something. And a team like that is going to continue to play for something because, let's be real, they barely got in last year and they wound up winning the World Series. So they know what can happen if you get hot at the right time. But this is a team you're clearly better than. You're supposed to be better than. You have a far better record than. You're supposed to go out there and beat this team, and then you go into another rubber match and you lose another series. That's the kind of stuff that can't happen, and winning teams don't do that. And now you go into a series at Wrigley Field where you play 3 afternoon games where the Cubs are sending lefties at you. And by the way, while the Cubs had slumped for 3 days prior, they almost threw a no-hitter today. So the Cubs had been, they did throw the no-hitters. I didn't even know if it went through or didn't.
It was combined, but it was a no-hitter. Yeah.
Fake no-hitter. Fake no-hitter. But regardless, you are now facing one of the hotter teams over the last month in baseball. And do I have any faith at all the Yankees are going to be able to beat that team in their home ballpark? Absolutely not.
So I thought this was interesting. This is a tweet from Randy Wilkins. He directed the Captain documentary that aired on ESPN. When was that? 2 seasons ago? Mm-hmm. And this is what he said about the Yankees. Culture matters. It can be reflected in team performance. All of the poor characteristics the Yankees display are allowed and protected. The sloppiness, the inconsistent effort / compete, and lack of urgency show up all the time. These things are accepted without consequence.
And again, I hate to be that guy, and he's had a tremendous year, and he doesn't deserve a lot of flack thrown his way. That falls on the captain. And I'm sorry, that is part of what a team captain does. Keeps these guys on their toes, keeps these guys hustling, keeps these guys in it, because There's plenty of mistakes Aaron Boone makes. There's plenty of mistakes Brian Cashman makes. Those kind of things are not things that the manager has to fix. These guys are not 10 years old. Right. Aaron Boone does not have to does Aaron Boone have to fix the bullpen and Aaron Boone have to manage the lineup? Absolutely. Those are all things on Aaron Boone. We could talk about that till the cows come home, and we certainly have. But when it comes to hustling and basic baseball stuff, that's not on the captain. That's not on the manager. That's on the players holding each other accountable. And it starts from the top.
Well,
and the top
no, I would say the manager does have something to do with it.
Not when it comes to hustling and stuff.
He can tell them to do it. He has to
speak up. These are professional baseball players.
Yeah, but managers do stuff like that. You can't just sit back and let this team play like crap all the time. Flip a table, for Christ's sake. Be like Teresa Giudice. Flip a table. Like, I'm sick of this stuff. It's lazy. He never gets mad. Oh, he bangs I'm sorry. Right. He banged a table one time during a post-game press conference. Big friggin' deal. It's him, it's Judge, it's the front office, it's everyone. I'm sick and tired of this stuff. I'm sick and tired of watching this team do what they do. We're going to talk about this more in segment 2 because I have something connecting Judge to the problem I have with the team. But first, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. Also, reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday if you want your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday. Please do that today because Fan Mail Friday is coming up next. Or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions. We text you roster moves, rehab updates. You can text us reactions to the games. I'm sure this one's going to be fun too, just like Tuesday night's game was. There's a 14-day free trial. All right, coming up next, I'm going to let you know why I'm semi-mad at Aaron Judge. There's a teaser.
PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The NFL season is less than 24 hours away. You can tell by how excited I am. And you can now win more or less on PrizePicks by betting on Patrick Mahomes to throw for more or less than 4,300 yards, along with CJ Stroud. How will his sophomore season look? Will he have more or less than 4,150 yards? Enjoy your season and enter your picks before week 1 kicks off in less than 24 hours. Here's all you got to do. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code one word Locked On MLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code Locked On MLB on PrizePicks to get $50 off instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's just guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back, and thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. And for your second listen, please enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here to give you daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB. It's available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't forget that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. Welcome back. You know that feeling when you get your tongue tied and you can't get it out of the weird rhythm that it's in? That's the weird radio rhythm I was just in right there. Very, very weird. Doesn't happen too often, but hey, you know, Aaron Judge hasn't homered in 9 games. I deserve a reprieve here and there too, right?
Here's my issue. Why is Alex Verdugo still playing? Why is he still playing?
I wish I had an answer for you. And I'll
Aaron
give
Judge?
you this.
Is it Aaron Judge because they're buddies and Aaron Judge wanted him to come to the Yankees and all this other stuff, and he's the captain and they want to make him happy? Because there's no other excuse for it. Why is he? I'm sick of watching him ground out and barely jog down to first base. Like, it's one thing for you to, like, oh, all right, it's a ground ball. I mean, he's literally like not even out of the batter's box by the time the ball gets to first base. I can't stand it. Glaber hot dogged a hit that he thought was a home run, and he still got a hit out of it, and he got in trouble for that. Verdugo is constantly not running anything out, and it drives me absolutely insane. He's done nothing to stay on this team. He's the one that's in the lane that's keeping Dominguez from coming up. I mean, if that's the excuse, if your excuse is that you have guys on the roster to play, then just play Trent Grisham over him, because I'm sick of seeing Verdugo.
Yeah, I mean, Trent Grisham's a better player right now than Verdugo. But let's be real. The only kind of player who's going to jog like that and put zero effort out of the box is a guy who's completely comfortable in the spot he's in.
Right.
No fear of getting cut. No fear of losing his roster spot or play time.
Nope.
He's completely comfortable where he's at. He has no, and there is a sense of non-comfort that is really good for a pro athlete. When you have a little bit of a fire up your butt and you don't know if your next day is guaranteed playing time, that's a good thing. That creates motivation. That makes guys try a little harder. And right now, Verdugo knows no matter what he does, he's in the lineup Friday night in Chicago or Friday afternoon in Chicago. And he's in the lineup Saturday afternoon in Chicago. And he's in the lineup Sunday afternoon in Chicago. It doesn't matter what he does, how he plays, what his level of hustle is. I mean, Stacey, he goes 0 for 4 every night.
Pretty much.
I mean, he's an automatic out pretty much every single night. He gets one hit in a game, and then I got to hear the manager afterwards talk about the one hit he had. I don't know what their tie is to Alex Verdugo. Again, we all love Aaron Judge, and he's been insane this year, but they cannot possibly be keeping a guy on this roster because Aaron Judge is buddies with him. I'm not putting it past that opinion at all. I think it's very possible that's the truth. I hope to God it's not. Because, I mean, that is a ridiculous way to run a ball club. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Could be possible. It's certainly not very Yankees-like.
No, but a lot of things that they've done lately are not very Yankees-like. I mean, they haven't been very Yankees-like in the last how many years now at this point?
Jason Dominguez, in his last 30 games in the minor leagues, is now hitting 386. With almost 10 home runs and almost 30 RBIs. Giving the reason of playtime as the excuse is one of the A, laziest, but B, I mean, it makes it look like you don't comprehend how baseball works. And I mean that with all due respect, because, I mean, listen, I get on Baron Boone for everything imaginable. The guy knows baseball. He's got generations worth of family baseball ties to him. But Stacey, Dominguez has proven it at this level. I mean, he has. We've seen him hit in the major league level. He's killing it in AAA right now. And the guy that you're claiming to block his position is a guy who can't get on base. Right. Doesn't. And I know you claim that you kept him in the lineup because of his glove. His glove hasn't even been that good.
Yeah.
It hasn't. He's had a couple blunders in the field. So I don't know what you could possibly be sitting here saying that at worst case, if Dominguez comes up and he's awful, at the absolute worst case, Dominguez is at the level of Verdugo with a little more power. And wouldn't you rather have the younger player do that? I don't know what value Verdugo is adding in his at-bats that Dominguez can't already give you. It makes no sense to me. I can't imagine they'd be keeping him in the lineup because he's buddy-buddy with Aaron Judge, but honestly, that opinion is as good as any other opinion I can give you for why Alex Verdugo is playing, because it makes absolutely no sense to me.
One quick thing. I just had to ban someone for a comment. We don't accept racism here, so let's not do that. Okay? Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's just frustrating every night watching this team do what they do. And they need to snap out of it. They need to snap out of it. I don't know if they will. Who knows? Because this always tends to happen. Like, we always think, oh God, they're going into a series against a team that's doing really well, or they're going against a team that has done well this season, and then they surprise us. So maybe, but you never know with the way they've been playing. It's just The inconsistency is driving me crazy. But you look around baseball, and most of the playoff teams are inconsistent. It's a very strange, we've talked about it many times, but it's a very strange season. Again, no team's going to win 100 games unless someone absolutely goes on a tear and doesn't lose for the rest of the
A
season, but
complete
that's not going
tear.
to happen. You know, it's just, it's crazy to witness all these different teams going through basically the same thing that the Yankees are going through. The Orioles are going through it. The Phillies are going through it. The Dodgers had gone through it a little bit. Like all the top tier teams have had spells this
It doesn't
season.
feel like, I mean, we don't watch all them as closely as the Yankees, though. It doesn't feel like any of the top teams have done it to this level, though.
The Phillies
Where
have.
I mean,
The Phillies have.
the Yankees have consistently not won series.
Right. The Phillies went on a stretch like that where, I mean, they were like, I was watching, not even Locked On Phillies. I was watching the Phillies postcast, and that dude just was not happy. So it's just the thing about the Yankees that drives me crazy is they can't lose normally. They can't just lose. They always have to lose in either spectacular walk-off fashion, like they did on Tuesday night. They lose by 10 runs to the worst team in will probably be baseball history in the White
No, it is,
Sox,
yeah.
you know. I just why can't they just lose like a normal 4-3 game and not even have it like a walk-off, just like have it be like it was 4-3 in the fifth and neither team scored for the rest of the game kind of a situation. You know, I don't know. I just we're not seriously here. I'm not seriously blaming Judge. That was kind of a joke because of how tight him and Verdugo is or are. I can speak English. But I just don't understand why they're protecting a guy who why did you go away? Protecting a guy who probably won't even be here next season. He's only going to be here
Won't.
for a season. He's
Not probably,
barely
won't.
yeah, like I just why is this there's just this weird blind loyalty to someone who's barely a Yankee. And I don't understand why. The only explanation could be his closeness with Judge, because that's
I
the
think
only
it's a
reason I could
combination.
see.
I think it's a combination of that, and the Yankees are obsessed with this notion of proving that they're right, that they're smarter than everybody else. And I
Yeah,
think they feel that way with the Verdugo move. They felt that way with the Aaron Hicks. I mean, think about the amount of players over the last few years that they have forcibly shoved down our throats and played
Josh
and played and
Donaldson.
played. Josh Donaldson,
Yeah.
Joey Gallo, Aaron Hicks, guys that were hitting in the 150s that they continued to play and play and play and force down our throats because they needed to look like the smartest guys in the room. None of us knew what we were watching. None of us. But for some reason, they knew more than we did until it got to the point where they had no option but to not play these guys.
Mhm.
And, I don't know how it hasn't gotten to that point with Verdugo yet. Somehow it hasn't. But, I mean, it is just, he's a nothing at the plate every single night. And they keep trotting him out there when you have the top prospect in baseball killing it in the minor leagues who has proven to be able to play in the major league level. And they refuse to still call him up.
Yeah. It's just annoying. I'm just seeing if there are any yeah. Yeah, that's what we should have called him, Washed Donaldson instead of Josh Donaldson, because my goodness, that was just awful. And I feel like it's going to be similar if they well, all right, when they make the playoffs, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to get there.
I can't imagine they played.
And then not do anything. We're just going to
It feels
watch
so
them.
ridiculous to have Dominguez in your system and not be playing in a postseason.
Yeah.
But I can't even imagine that being a reality.
But I don't like the excuses. I don't know how anyone accepts those excuses. Oh, well, we can't bring him up because we don't have like room for him. What?
Well, I wish the media members would get on him a little bit more. But,
Yes,
I mean, Aaron Boone gives the same lazy answers, though, and Cashman's not going to speak. So
that's another
at
thing.
a certain point, what do you want him to do? Like, they can ask the questions that they want. Aaron Boone's going to just repeat himself 1,000 times.
Let's table that for segment 3 because I need to talk about that because that also annoys me a lot. All right, so coming up in segment 3, we're going to talk about how the beat writers are with Aaron Boone. And we're going to preview the Yankees and Cubs because that's coming up this weekend. Hello. Hold on one second. I will edit this out. Guys, how are we doing tonight? Are we doing good? We're doing good. I can't find the overlay that I need. Isn't this typical? Yeah. Hold on. There it is. It was at the top. All right. It is still technically summertime. I know everyone like school started at September 4th, but it's technically summertime until September 22nd, which means you can still have barbecues on the weekend. You can stock up on all your grilling favorites, earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers and hot dogs. You can have both. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies to toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. So that can cover an entire shopping trip, the flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. Ibotta just adds your offers into the app, you upload your receipt, and you get real cash that you can cash out to your bank account. You can put it in PayPal, or you can turn it into gift cards. Join over the 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop at for or from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all of your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying the app by using the code Locked On MLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use the code Locked On MLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code Locked On MLB. Welcome back to Locked On Yankees. Remember, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. I have no idea why I could not find the Ibotta overlay, and it was at the top of in the system we use, we have a ton of overlays for all the different advertisers we have, and for some reason I could not find it for like 30 seconds. So my bad. It's been that kind of a week. Like watching the Yankees has just made everything bad. But here's my issue with the beat writers. Let's continue that discussion. You're right. I feel like they ask him questions, he answers them, gives them like an answer that doesn't really answer anything, and then they don't follow it up at all, and they let him get away with it, and that drives me absolutely insane. All the answers that he's given about Dominguez, you can't press him more, you're muted.
It feels like a lot of it is scripted. It feels like a lot of it is the same answer that he knows what he's going to give, and it's just clockwork at this point. Like he knows what he's going to say. It's very much Bill Belichick like, where question and he knows what he's going to say before the question's asked, and it's the same regular answer. I don't know what more they could actually do when it comes to asking Boone these questions, because again, a lot of these decisions, I don't think a lot of them are up to Boone, if that makes sense. Like I don't think the Dominguez move has anything to do with Aaron Boone. Honestly,
True.
I don't think he has a say. He could want Dominguez up as bad as humanly possible. They're just not going to bring him up because Cashman's obsessed with looking. Cashman to me is obsessed with looking like the smartest guy in the room right now. Yeah. And everybody, including their mother and their grandmother and their deceased grandmothers, know that Dominguez should be in this lineup right now. But Brian Cashman's got to let you know that he's the smartest guy in the world. And he's the only one who thinks Dominguez shouldn't be up. And he's the only one that knows Dominguez is not ready to play in the major leagues yet this year. That's what it feels like. And every single person knows Verdugo should not be in this lineup, but Cashman knows Verdugo should be in the lineup. And that's why he plays.
Well,
I can't. That's the only answer I can give you. because Cashman was the only guy who knew that Joey Gallo was going to work out. He was the only guy that knew Josh Donaldson was going to somehow figure out how to hit. He was the only guy that knew that Aaron Hicks was going to manage to go back to his old form. None of those things came true.
And then he gets pissy when people follow up with him. We saw it during the GM meetings in December when he had that impromptu kind of like scrum outside the hotel, and he snapped and was just and he was so obnoxious about it, like, because as you said, he has to be the smartest guy in the room. And how much more are they going to give? Like, how much more time are they going to give him? It's 25 years at this point, and more than that now. And, he had really not that much to do with the first few championships. Sure, he was there for 09, but the first few that he was there for,
he was still there. And then he was still involved. Like, I can't not give him credit for things like that. Like, he was still involved with the team. He was a part of the organization. He was an assistant general manager, and then he was the general manager for the ones after. It's hard. I mean, he was the general manager for the team that went to the World Series in 2003, the team that went to the World Series in 2001, the team that won the World Series in 2000. It's hard for me to take credit away. I know he had unlimited funds, and I know other teams weren't spending at that level. All those taken aside, there's still championships won. It's hard to take those away from him.
But he was also the GM for the 2005 team, the 2006 team, the 2007 team, the 2008 team, 2009. He was given an unlimited budget. Here you go. Spend as much as you can. Get every free agent that we could possibly get because George is dying. Let's give him a last championship. After that, he doesn't trade for Cliff Lee. He wants David Adams. Why? David Adams? Come on. Ugh, I can't.
No, you're right. Again, it is a weird thing with Cashman, and we can break it down a lot more. It feels like more of an off-season topic because, there are plenty of moves that he hasn't made. Again, I mean, that's a player that you just brought up is Cliff Lee. If they wind up making that Cliff Lee move, because one of the worst signings the Yankees have ever made, and we're still talking about that signing, right? I mean, they don't talk about it as much in Philadelphia. He played for 2 years of that 7-year deal, and he was terrible. Now, I know the years prior, he was amazing, and they probably win the World Series in 2010 or 11 if they trade for him. But regardless,
that would have been enough for me.
It would have, sure. But if they would have signed him to that massive deal like everyone wanted them to, it wouldn't have worked out. If they would have given Patrick Corbin the massive deal, it wouldn't have worked out. Like, there's plenty of moves that wouldn't have worked out that he didn't make that no one talks about.
Bryce Harper.
But again, there's the moves that he didn't make also. There's not going all in on Bryce Harper when Bryce Harper wanted to be here.
I feel like baseball's gone past the need for Brian Cashman. I feel like other teams have, let's see, they've gone through an evolution, right? And they've changed with baseball and how baseball has changed in the last 10 to 15 years. And Brian Cashman has not. And that's why the Yankees, yes, they're making the playoffs. Last year they didn't, but they're usually making the playoffs, but they can't get past a certain point in the playoffs because they don't make a roster that can push you through to a World Series and win a World Series. Again, we talk about it all the time. The playoffs are a crapshoot. They make a roster that can get you to the playoffs, but they don't make a roster that can get you through the playoffs. And I don't understand how he could watch all these other teams do what they do and not try to emulate them in any way. Or sometimes he does, but not in a good way. So where's the change happen?
It goes back to he's this prodigy child of a GM, and it's consistently trying to prove to everybody that he's the smartest guy out there. He's the smartest guy in the room. He's the greatest GM of all time, and none of you can hold anything to him when it comes to being a GM in baseball. That's what it comes down to. And that's what he treats it like. And that's what how he carries himself. And, he's not going to sign the guys he doesn't want to sign. He's going to sign the guys he wants to sign. And if he brings a guy in, like he trades for him, he signs him. He is going to force that guy down your throat until that guy works out. That's his strategy. He's done it with Verdugo. He's done it with Gallo. He did it with Donaldson. It's every single player that he brings in, and he's going to force it and force it and force it until it works. That's what he's done his entire Yankee tenure. And he still thinks he's the best GM in baseball. He still thinks he's the best guy out there. And I do believe still if the Yankees fired him tomorrow, he'd be get picked up in 3 minutes by another team. He would. Track record's too good, and there's a million teams in the sport that would take the Yankees' level of success over the last 15 years without a championship in a heartbeat. But at the end of the day, this is a team that's historically built on winning championships that hasn't been able to do it in 15 years and doesn't look like they're on any track close to getting one this year.
Michael Trezza, playoffs. When did a Yankee talk about playoffs? World Series championships, period.
Yeah, but see, that's my problem, though, with the Yankee fan base, though, Stacey. That opinion's not fair. It's not. And I know that was fair in the 1950s when there were 8 teams in the league and it was championship every single year.
No.
I get it. That opinion nowadays, who three-peats now?
No, but I don't think that's the thing. I think that they want the players to have that in their heads. That is your ultimate goal, to win a championship. It's not just to make the playoffs and see what happens. And the way these guys are playing, it makes it seem like, oh, well, as long as we make the playoffs, like even earlier in the season, when they had that big lead and then they started losing and Judge said something to the effect of, oh, it was a good thing we got out to that big lead, blah, blah, blah. Like they were like, oh, well, at least we have this big lead so we can kind of cruise along here now. Who says that?
There has to be a happy medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think your goal every year is to get to the playoffs, is to win a division, is to get a high seed and to win a World Series.
Winning a division is also none of this wild card nonsense, like just making the playoffs. No, you want to win the division.
That should be a concern of yours. My take on the whole thing was, though, I don't like when the Yankee fan base comes out and keeps giving you the championship or bust George Steinbrenner mindset. That you cannot have that mindset now. That is an ancient way of looking at the sport. It is, because no one in the sports world. The Kansas City Chiefs might do it, and they have pretty much God playing quarterback for them right now. That's they're the closest thing to a three-peat that we're going to see in forever, right? That's not how sports works nowadays, and it is the beauty in sports, right? Is there is a lot of parallels, and there's nothing's the same every year in sports now, and I think you need that, right? You need a lot of parity in sports. That is good, but no one is three-peating anymore. No one is going to 4 World Series.
No one's repeating anymore.
No one's repeating. No one's going to 4 World Series in 5 seasons. That's not a thing anymore. So you can't go into every season with this championship or bust. It's about championships. That's not how. Do you want your players with having the mentality of wanting to win a championship? Absolutely. But as a fan base, you got to get that mindset of them winning the title every single year out of your head. You can look back at those pennants and see 1951 and 52 and 53. That's not what teams do anymore. That's not how sports works anymore. There's 30 teams in the league. Every team's trying to win. You can't hold this unrealistic expectation that every single year they have to win the World Series. Having said that, with a $300 million payroll and over $1 billion spent on the roster in the last 15 years, you gotta have a pennant to show for it. You got to have something to show for it. And Aaron Judge could very well now, going forward, go down as one of the greatest Yankees of all time and still doesn't have a pennant. Like, forget a World Series. He doesn't want a pennant.
Yeah.
He hasn't played in the World Series.
Yeah. Although, I mean, to be fair, 2017 wasn't quite his fault. All right, let's preview Yankees at the Cubs. Luis Heel coming back. Clark Schmidt coming back. Woohoo! When you look at these matchups, it's interesting because, okay, they're all 2:20 starts, which is odd for Friday being an afternoon game. Because I saw one of the beat writers. I saw one of the beat writers say Friday afternoon, and I thought it was a misprint. And then I looked and I thought, oh, right, it's Wrigley. They still do that. Okay. So Luis Heel, 12-6 with a 3.39 ERA against Javier Assad, who's 7-4 with a 3.21. So other than the records, the ERAs are close.
But this is what the Cubs are too. They're a tough team. It's a lot of pitchers that you don't really know their names. And yet they've all got hovering 3 ERAs. No one's really bad. It's very peculiar with them.
I say that because Saturday, Clark Schmidt, 5-3, 2.52 against Jordan Wicks, 2-2 with a 3.82. So again, close in ERAs. And then
now
Sunday,
this game's going to be impossible to get tickets to, the Sunday game. Impossible.
Oh, yeah. Sunday is Garrett Cole, 6-3 with a 3.55 ERA. That looks a lot more respectable than the ERA that was, close to 5. And he is facing Jameson Taillon, who's 9-8 with a 3.66 ERA.
The Jameson Taillon revenge game. Going to be hard to get tickets to that one.
Yeah. So the deal is for Heel and Schmidt, Nestor will piggyback either Schmidt or Heel if they need him to come into the game, if they can't last too long because they're both coming back from injury. And Clark Schmidt is still ramping up, but they want to put him in the rotation because the playoffs are quickly approaching. And then Nestor should be back into or in the rotation for the Red Sox series. At least that's what Boone said the other day. So we'll see how that works out in Chicago. So should be
a tough series. It's going to be a really tough series of how the Cubs are playing.
Yep. Let's see if there are any more comments that we should Jared Williams, and they'll make an excuse like, oh, at least we made the playoffs, but you didn't win a World Series. Yeah, I mean, yes, I get it. You're not going to win a World Series every year, but at least have the attitude that you want to and come out and play like you want to. Teams that win World Series don't play like the Bad News Bears.
But here's my point in the whole argument. And again, we have plenty of months in the offseason to discuss this and the mindset of Yankee fans. This is my point, though. This stretch is one of the greatest sports team stretches in the history of sports. You cannot, as a fan base, expect this to be a reality. You can't. That cannot. Your expectation cannot be winning 4 World Series in 5 years, winning 5 pennants in 6 seasons. That is an unreal. It's amazing that it happened to the Yankees, but are St. Louis Cardinals fans saying that?
No.
They have the second most World Series in baseball. Are St. Louis Cardinals fans saying, oh, the Yankees did 96, 98, 99, why aren't we doing that? No one else is saying that. You can't sit there with that expectation of, because you saw it happen in an era when the Yankees had unlimited funds, no one else could spend with them, and they had one of the greatest young cores in the history of the sport. You can't sit there and say that's now the expectation.
Let me correct you. Let me correct you on that. The Orioles had a higher payroll than the Yankees in 1998. Just want to put that out there. Listen,
I am not sitting here saying the Yankees got lucky those years. They were managed perfectly. They were run perfectly. They had a fantastic young core and a perfect mix of veterans. In no way am I sitting here saying that those teams were not built amazingly and they were not great teams and all-time great teams. That's not the argument I'm making, but you have to sit here and also understand that is one of the greatest stretches in the history of professional sports. Okay? That is not something that you should look at. Appreciate it. Appreciate that you saw it, but that cannot be an expectation for you. That every year they should be winning World Series. That's not what teams do. It's not realistic.
Yeah. And it is amazing. We'll quickly do this and then go because we're up above 40, almost at 45 minutes here. The fact that the Yankees, what they did in the 90s with the extra playoff rounds, because,
it's incredible.
The 50s, 60s, 40s, 30s, 20s Yankees didn't have the division series. You just went in. You were in the playoffs. You win the pennant. You go into the World Series.
Though. It's a good point, though. You had the best record in the sport, and there were 5 other teams in your league. I mean, you could have the best record in the sport without having a great year, and the Yankees, a lot of those years, did have great years, but that's because a lot of the other teams in the league didn't have any money and couldn't afford any of the other players. So like, again, I'm not taking anything away from the history of the Yankees franchise. We don't need to break down the history of the Yankees franchise. I get it. I'm just saying when it does slightly bother me when I see people bring up the late 90s and this iconic dynasty. But I mean, the Golden State Warriors were just great for a 5-year stretch with Steph Curry. And they're still in the middle of Steph Curry's prime. Are Golden State Warriors saying, where's our championship? Expectation. No one else does that. No other fan base does that. And Yankee fans, for some reason, have this like ego that the expectation is to win a title every single year. And yes, should they be trying to? Of course. And do I feel like they're putting in the effort? No. But Stacey, it's not realistic to be requiring a championship. You can't expect that out of your team either.
True. But it also doesn't help when fans of other teams are like, your team didn't make the World Series for a whole decade. It's like, yeah, think about that insult that you're making, because how many decades did the Yankees make at least one World Series? That was like 100 years.
And again, for every, for every team like that, there's the Colorado Rockies, who the most success they've had in the last 30 years is a wild card game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, there's a ton of those teams, but there's also a lot of other teams where they've had no success and they've had starving fan bases. And I'm not saying the Yankees fan base is not starving. And I'm not saying that it's not torturous to go this long without having any success. And it's almost, in a weird way, more torturous that they wind up getting close every single year. And there's hope every single year and they break your heart every single year. It's starting to feel like being a New York Rangers fan. I digress. But you can't have this expectation every year that it's a World Series or the season is useless, because that's also not fair to the players, because you can't, we will break it all down, trust me, whenever the season ends. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you this season was worthless and pointless if Aaron Judge finishes the year at 58 home runs and wins another MVP. I'm not considering this was a wasteless, pointless year because they didn't win a World Series.
Yeah. One more correction. The Rockies made the World Series in 07, lest we forget. They just had like a 10-day layover and then got swept by the Red Sox because they had that 10-day layover.
And that was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, one more time. You can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. Thank you for joining us live. Lots of comments, lots of people. We appreciate it. And this was a long one, so thank you for sticking around. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find the link in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And starting next week, we have exciting news for you. So not only do we cover the team every day, but we're giving you instant episodes after every single game. So starting next Monday or Tuesday, possibly, still not sure, but it's definitely next week, you can check out the Locked On Yankees postcast right here on Locked On Yankees in the podcast feed, audio, as well as streaming on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. You get rapid reaction to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Yankees postcast, but obviously you will still watch us and listen to us as well, because that's just the way it goes. So thank you for joining us for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. Maybe next week we'll have better luck with them winning games. Because Thursday's an off day, and then Monday we'll be recapping the Cubbies series. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. Enjoy Wrigley. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hopefully we'll enjoy Wrigley.